I've had a long career, over 50-year career here at Sotheby's, and I'm not sure it's ever happened. Jan Brueghel the Elder flower pictures are not growing on trees. He's a rarity. And there I have two that have appeared within a year of each other.
Sotheby's is the temporary custodian of some of the world's most rare, remarkable and coveted art and objects. In each episode, we'll be exploring the significance and journey of an extraordinary work told by those who know it best. This is The Specialist. On today's episode, the discovery of two remarkable Brueghel paintings hidden in plain sight, one at the back of a wardrobe. George Wachter is Sotheby's Americas chairman and co-chairman of Old Master Paintings Worldwide. He takes us back over 50 years to the start of his career to tell the tale of these discoveries and just how vital a specialist eye is to the uncovering of the extraordinary within the everyday. Let's join George now with more.
I started at Sotheby's in the training course in 1973, and I was hired by Derek Johns in the Old Master Department in 1974. And in mid-77, I went back to New York. We were having sales in those days every month, and I had to catalog them. I learned so much during that period. We would walk in, and there was like a stack of 50 pictures, and we'd have to get through it. It was 1977. I had just come from London to New York. I was called on a visit to look at a Dirk Hals. Dirk Hals is related to Franz Hals, but probably a Dirk Hals at that time would have been worth $10,000 to $15,000 in 1977. I went and I looked at the Dirk Hals, and then I was leaving, and I saw like a little frame sort of sticking out behind the door of an armoire. The armoire was open, and the door was covering something. And I said to the gentleman, "Can I have a look at that?" He goes, "Oh, no, it's just a photograph. Don't worry about it." I said, "Well, let me have a look." You know, I've always thought you never know. That's the way I think about things. You just never know. And what does it take to look? There was something that looked like it was framed like a photo. But when I looked at it, I thought, well, this is something. This is not a photo. I was expert enough to know that it was a painting. It's not like I knew from the first second what it was, but I could see that it was pretty impressive. I was young, but I had a certain amount of knowledge already at that point. I thought it looked like a Jan Brueghel the Elder, the younger son of Peter Brueghel. Peter Brueghel the Elder had two children. Peter the Younger was doing versions of Peter the Elder's compositions for most of his life. He did a few of his own original compositions, but for the most part, he was copying his father. Jan Brueghel the Elder, his brother, was a different character. He was original. He had his own style. It was very precise. It was very tight, very beautifully done. You go to any museum and see one. They're so brilliantly done. He would work on panel, he would work on canvas, he would work on copper a lot. I'd say certainly of the two sons of Peter Brueghel the Elder, he was the greater artist. Everyone gives Ambrosius Bosschaert in Holland to be the inventor of still lifes, but this painting that I found was painted probably in 1608. So really early. And Ambrosius Bosschaert was just starting. So, you know, the history of still lifes, you need both those two names to really understand it. So I suggested that he bring the painting into Sotheby's and let us have a good look at it. And it was pretty obvious. It was an absolutely magnificent, and I would say perfect, Jan Brueghel the Elder. The condition was unbelievable. It was on a panel that was intact, that had never been touched, really. It was called Flowers in a Glass Vase, Tulips, Irises, Roses, a Lily, Cornflowers, and Other Blooms, with a wasp, an aphid, a ladybird, a fly, butterflies, and other insects. 16 1/4 by 13 1/4 inches. What was special about it was two things. The first is that the condition was extraordinary. You didn't see any thinness. You didn't see any lack of definition. It was all there. And the second thing that was extraordinary is, in this particular case, obviously the panel hadn't been cut at all. It was extremely well-balanced picture. So if you look at it, you'll see it just fits the contours of the panel beautifully. And the composition fills the space it's allotted to it. It just read really well. So then we had to negotiate with him to sell it. It was estimated, I think, at $100,000 to $120,000. And the sale was in January of 1978. When the sale came, it made $560,000, by far and away the highest price in the sale. Second of all, it was the third of the whole sale, was that one painting. It broke the record for Brueghel, but in fact, it also broke the record for a still life. Apparently, according to the New York Times, it was the highest price ever paid for an old master still life. And it was also the most expensive old master painting sold in New York for 15 years. Today, that same painting would make $5 million, I'd say. A few months later, I got a call saying, I have a Jan van Os, and I'd like to bring it in and have it sold. I said, great, and we made an appointment. Jan van Os is an 18th century painter. Brueghel is 1608. Jan van Os is an 18th century painter who's working in the style of Jan van Huysum. He's a lovely artist, basically known for still lives, and he brings it in, and it's all wrapped up, and he unwraps it, and it's a copper, probably not far different in size to the one we had just sold. And I'm sorry to say, it's just obvious. It wasn't like I was a great genius. I had just sold one. I knew exactly what they looked like. I'd worked with it for months. Another Jan Brueghel the Elder flower picture? It was beautiful, and the condition was great, but somehow the composition wasn't quite as balanced in this one as in the one we had just sold. This picture had been in Joseph Bonaparte's collection, Napoleon's brother, which was sold in a kind of a famous sale, at least for people like me, in Bordentown, New Jersey, where he had moved. And it was called Jan van Os. And I think the sale was in 1846. And so I told him what had happened with the last one. He left it for sale. That was 1 year later, it got in a sale. And that one, when it came up, was bought by the same man who bought the first one. And he paid, I think the estimate at that time was $150,000, and it made $410,000. We now, in Old Masters, I think we're like 14 strong. We were 3 at the time when I discovered the first Brueghel. We were 3 people. I looked up the catalog of the sale in 1978, and unlike what you would see today for that painting, where we would have a whole lot of information, note, there was nothing. Literally nothing. If you look at the fact that in this catalog, we didn't say anything, and in the 80s, so a few years later, I started having my team write notes. People don't know who Jan Brueghel the Elder is. A lot of people don't know. So I would write a little note, and then I would ask them to write a little note about the object itself and what it means. In this case, we couldn't put a painting in a sale like this anymore, only because there's no provenance, there's no literature. It's been published many times since, but at that stage it hadn't been. It was a complete discovery. But nowadays we'd have our team looking at war loot issues and making sure that everything was clean. I started making the catalogs a little bit more full. I had this idea that people wanted to know a little bit more about Old Masters. I was trying to bring it to the people. I found plenty of great pictures, but I don't really ever remember finding 2 like this. In this case, not one and not the other. knew what they had. That's what made those two discoveries special, because I knew what they had, but they didn't. Sotheby's gives you a platform to see as many great things as can be imagined. You go into so many great homes with unbelievable paintings, and that's what I love. I love the people I work with, and I love the paintings I see, and that's why I'm still here.
Thank you for joining us on The Specialist. This has been brought to you by Sotheby's Financial Services. SFS offers asset-based loans to unlock the value of your fine art, automobiles, and other luxury collectibles. To step further into the world of Sotheby's, visit any one of our galleries, which are open to the public. Go to sotheby's.com to find out more.